Welcome to the Pixl Marketing Show, the podcast for real estate media pros who want to go from random acts of marketing to remarkable results. I'm your host, Pete Stagel, founder of PixlCRM and creator of the Pixl Marketing Method. And every week, we're diving into the systems, strategies, and real stories that help you attract better clients, retain them longer, and grow a real business. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the show. Today, I've got Dave Davis from DMD Real Estate Photography in multiple locations. But Dave's been with PixlCRM for what, better part of 6-8 months now? And
I don't remember exactly, but yeah, somewhere in there.
yeah, something
Summertime
like that.
switch.
Yeah, and which is interesting. Most people switch in the wintertime to do everything that way. But Dave's got a lot of years of experience. I've known of him for at least several years, and so welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Pete. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So tell everybody a little bit about your business, how you got started in real estate photography, because it's always interesting, people's backgrounds and what made them want to shoot real estate.
Yeah, for sure. So in honor of Alaska, I've got our Northern Lights going on here in the background, which I'm kind of excited. They match your Pixel CRM look, so I got the green
Yeah.
going here for you. That was not intended, but so I came to this industry as a photographer. I started shooting full time as a photographer in the early 2000s. So 2002, probably around the Olympics time when they came to Utah. I'm from Utah originally, but that's kind of where I got my start. Snowboard photography, action sports photography was kind of my beginning back in the early 2000s. I made my way to Alaska early, around that same time. And I was doing all kinds of photography. And I got married, and my wife said, "You need a real job." And I was like, okay, crap. So what am I going to do? So I decided to go back to college. And while I was in college, I got I got a full-time job actually at a kitchen store up in Alaska. And while working there, they needed photos of some of the kitchens that they had done. They were high-end appliances, stuff like that. And me, I want to do it. I'll take pictures. And I just fell in love. I immediately knew that kitchen photography was what I really wanted to do. I was sick of weddings and portraits and school sports and all that stuff. So that's how I got in. And this was about 2007, 2008. I started doing some kitchen photos. And then in 2009, I decided, hey, I want to do this full time. Alaska is not very big as far as population. It's massive in land, but population not very big. And so I wanted to just shoot kitchens, but that's like, how do you make a living just shooting kitchens? And so real estate was the thing. And at the time, my competitor was a realtor turned photographer. And I love the guy, but he wasn't very good. His He was shooting HDR, which back in the 2009 era, HDR was kind of garbage.
That cartoonish look. Yeah.
Yeah, really ugly. Yeah. And I was shooting flash and, multi-flash. The Scott Hargis, for those who've been around for a long time, the Scott Hargis method, anyway, kind of those original guys. And our photos just stood out. And people were like, holy crap, these are really nice. And we just took off. And we built a really big business in Alaska. We quickly became the number one team up there for photographers. I quickly learned that if I wanted to build a business, I needed to add team members. And, so we went that direction, built a team and and we're still doing that. We're still just growing
Yeah.
and building teams and doing that. So that's how I got
It,
started.
it's crazy that you wanted to focus on kitchens, considering most people are even considering real estate being too niche. And you went not even real estate from houses and spaces to just kitchens. You're like, I
Yeah.
just want to do kitchens in Alaska of all places.
Well, my original dream was so the company that I worked for started a magazine and they called
Oh,
it
okay.
Alaska's Best Kitchens, and so they needed a photographer to do that. And I was like, oh, this is a cool idea. Like, I kind of want to franchise this and go to other
Mm,
locations. Hawaii's Best Kitchens, you know, Utah's best kitchens, New Mexico's best kitchens, whatever, and then fly around and do all the kitchens, right? That was my original dream. And my wife was like, no, I kind of want you home. I kind of want a husband who's home and not traveling the world. And I kind of agreed. I was like, I don't really want to be traveling all the time. And so we pivoted to real estate. That was the next, I would have done, designers and remodels and all of that if
yeah,
there was enough,
yeah.
but there just wasn't enough business for that up there. So
Yeah, absolutely. But it's still an interesting journey because it's where people come from. Like I came from the business side of things. My wife was a realtor and she needed some photos taken, and photography was a hobby, and said, "Yeah, we'll do this." And a lot of people come from portraits and weddings and whatnot, and so it's just always interesting, especially when it's something unique such as kitchens and that type of thing. So you've been doing this for quite a while. If it was back in the late 2000s, because most people nowadays got started in 2020,
yeah.
2019. And so you've seen a lot of things change over the years. Do you still shoot the Scott Hargis method with the multiple flashes everywhere?
No, we did for a long time. It wasn't till recently that we switched. And what I started to learn was it's really hard to scale a team in that method because it's a very photography. I hate to say it, but like shooting brackets is kind of cheating in my opinion. And it's so easy. It's like anybody can do it. And that's why I think we have so much competition now because the barrier to entry is so easy. You
Hmm.
know, our good friend Eli Jones is teaching the whole world how easy it is to become a real estate photographer. It is nowadays. You can outsource your editing. You can
Yeah,
shoot,
AI edit it for you.
yeah, AI editing, shoot brackets. You're in and out in 15 minutes. My old method would take me, I'd be in a house just for photos. It'd be over an hour. Um, Anyways, it was hard to teach other people how to do that method um, on a large scale. We have 9 photographers now in Alaska, and it was hard to find people that understood it and would get it and would do a good job. Because if you do bad flash photography, it's worse. Especially now, HDR has gotten, bracketing has gotten so good that bad flash is really
Is
obvious,
bad. Yeah.
is bad. You just put a flash in the middle of the floor and have it shoot up and it just looks like garbage, if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Obviously with good editing, you can fix that. But yeah, we made the switch because of that. Like the more we started to grow, the more team members we added, the more I was banging my head against the wall, and I needed something to find more consistency because everyone would be like, well, I want you to shoot it, Dave. I want you to shoot it, Dave. Because I had the most experience. And so
And your
we
name's on
made,
the company, so
yeah. So we made the switch. And honestly, I wish I would have done it sooner. It's
if
been pretty
the
awesome.
quality was there,
True,
it's one of those chicken and egg things where the quality wasn't there then quite yet and whatnot.
true.
So
But
you've
but
got
with
nine.
with editors though, with a good
Yeah.
editor, the quality's been there for a long time. But
Yeah.
um, so anyway,
So you got 9 photographers in Alaska, but that's not
Yep.
your only market, right?
Correct. So I got sick of the Northern Lights, darkness, cold.
See, the Northern
Um,
Lights are fine. It's the dark 6 months out of the year that I'd probably have a problem with. I'm a
yeah,
bit more solar powered.
yeah. I spent like 21 years in Alaska, and I decided that I needed better sunshine, and I wanted to be closer to my parents. And my parents are getting old, their health is not getting any better. And I was like, you know what, my kids, I want my kids to know their other grandparents. And Alaska is just so far away, it's hard for parents with bad health to come visit us. And so we
Yeah.
decided to move back to where I'm from, which is Utah. And so that was a very scary step. I have a large team in Alaska, and I decided to pull out of there. And I tried to do it as quietly as possible because I didn't want to destroy my business. And luckily, it's worked out good. Our numbers, we continue to grow, which is good. But it's very scary to leave, because that's everything, right? I mean, that was my entire life. And we moved to Utah, and we started a new business in Utah. We became a new competitor to the Utah photographers, and I'm sorry for that if anybody's watching, um, but that was an interesting transition, going from being the number one team to nobody knows who you are. And um, and so yeah, we maintain that business in Alaska. We still have the 9 photographers. We still shoot a lot of photos up there, and I still go back and forth and show my face, and attend different events and different things. I'm actually headed up there in a couple weeks again, um, and so we
Nice.
started we started growing a business here in Utah, with all that knowledge and understanding of how to do it, and watching what in Alaska. We started to get a lot of competitors, especially around COVID time. We started to get a ton of competitors, and I was able to watch what they did and then implement those same tactics here. Now that we're in Utah, I was able to implement those same those same
Yeah.
thing ideas and tactics and stuff. And so yeah, we've moved to Utah. um, and then since being in Utah, we've now also branched into New Mexico as well. um, that one was kind of an odd one. I wasn't planning on going to New Mexico. It just kind of happened. You meet people and you make friends, and stuff leads to business sometimes, and that's how
Yep.
that happened. I met a realtor from New Mexico, and he was like, "Hey, why don't we do this?" And so him and I decided to work on it. And we're still very small in New Mexico. We have a very small footprint there. But my
But it's a little
goals
bit
are to
easier after having done, the big scary move to Utah and then, jumping into New Mexico. It gets easier as you go into new markets, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And our goal this next year is to move into Idaho, which makes a lot of sense because we're already bordering Idaho.
Hmm.
I actually do a lot of photo shoots in Idaho already, just because we're so close. We're on the northern part of Utah.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, it's once you have the systems in place and you've got a good admin team on the back end, and you've got, obviously what you provide, a great CRM, the expansion becomes a lot easier with once you have those systems in place.
Yeah. Speaking of systems, you're actually the one. I remember in one of the Facebook groups years and years ago, I was looking for a couple of pieces of my system that I'm trying to put together for my business, and you had recommended Zoho. And so I attribute a lot of that year of heartache of building out Zoho to, to your suggestion at that point. And so, but you had used a lot of the systems and stuff out there trying to put this all together clearly because you have multiple locations, you're trying to get all of this managed together. What was the that like on Zoho side? Because you're using a lot of the pieces to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah. So I knew, I don't even know when like exactly the timeline is, but I knew at one point that a CRM system was like an absolute need, right? All of our delivery platforms, throughout the years have been great for what they do, but they were missing out on this CRM piece. And once you start getting to a point where you're trying to grow and you're trying to, reach out to leads and you're trying to, follow up with past clients. And, I just started to see that as like, man, I've got to have a better way of keeping track of customers. And, you know, when you add an admin to the mix and you need an admin to be able to talk to them, and then you want to be able to see what was talked about. And, when you just need all of those histories and all that stuff together, it was like, I need a CRM. So I was like gung ho with Zoho. I was so excited to find Zoho. For those that don't know, Zoho is kind of like a Salesforce, but it was sold to me as being a cheaper option. And it is cheap if you have a small team,
Hmm.
but the bigger you get, the more and more and more expensive it gets because you have to add on all these things. And Zoho is very powerful, but everything is kind of in its own little silo. Like you've got the CRM, you've got the email marketing, you've got the social media, you've got all these like silos that you have to figure out how to connect and talk
Yeah,
to each other.
very
And
different apps, and while it's not duct taped together, because it all still is in the same thing, it's just still it just
yeah,
it was kind of janky. It just kind of didn't always
yeah,
work together. It was like it it's almost as if you took Mailchimp and OpenPhone and a CRM and invoicing and kind of just mashed them all together to say, here, it's one product, but it's
but
not.
it's not. Yeah, you got to sign into each one differently. And it, the thing that really attracted me to Zoho at first was that it was customizable, that I could build what I wanted to build, like what you did with Pixel, like the Omni outreach method. I could build that inside of Zoho, but you had to know how to do it. And so I spent countless hours on YouTube and hiring developers and all these things to try to figure out how to build what I wanted. Um, and just banging my head against the wall for years, trying to build what I wanted. I kind of got to a point, to be honest, with it that I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna like I kind of gave up until and then I found you again. You and I had talked and I had but I'd seen Pixel pop up, when you first started and when you were kind of, getting it out there. But then all of a sudden, I think your messaging just hit at the right time at the right day or something. I was just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to bang my head against the wall when this solution looks so much better? And then really what it was the book, right? I got the book, I got this book and I started reading it and I was like, man, this is what I need. Like, why am I trying to do this? Anyways. So
Hmm.
that's what got me to say, okay, enough with this Zoho mess. I still have a couple pieces of Zoho because there are a couple little things um that I really like. But for the most part, everything is moved towards Pixel.
Yeah, I've noticed in the group, there's been several times where you post as like, I found another thing in Pixel that I can cancel off over here. Or I can do this, and just
Yeah,
seeing, it's you are a power user in Pixel. You're pulling everything in and saying and utilizing all the little pieces that it can do, and it's awesome to see somebody actually use it. And then when we have conversations, it's, hey, there's this little weird thing over here, and it's usually it's an easy thing to say, well, you just got to turn this on, or you got to tweak this over here, or what have you. And rather than I, I do a lot of support calls, a lot of calls with people, and a lot of times it's the same thing. Like, what do I do next? It's like, well, follow the pixel marketing method. That's why we developed it that way. And that's the next step. Do that. But when we have conversations, it's like, hey, I've got three companies and I want to try to do everything all in one spot. And how do I do that? And it's like, that's an interesting concept. Let's walk through how to do this. And even before we started recording the call here, you were mentioning how, you've got the three companies and it's really cool how you've got it all working together so that you just do one email out and it pulls in your New Mexico numbers and business name and your Alaska and your Utah. And you've found a lot of flexibility in what it can do. Really, you found the customizability that you said that Zoho had inside it, even with the structure and the process.
Yeah, and that to me is huge. Being able to customize things to fit your specific need is huge, right? I mean, that's one of the things that frustrates me a little bit about some of the, like, the delivery platforms, for example. You can't really do anything. You get what you get. You can't fix it for your business, be like, okay, for me, I want to do this or this, right? And that's what I
Hmm.
do love about Pixel is you can customize it, like you talked about. How do I send one email to three different markets with three different phone numbers and three different website addresses, right? And we were able to figure that out by creating, custom fields, and you know, and making it to where all my Utah clients have a Utah phone number field, for the business line, and then that field is what populates that email. And so it's awesome to have that customizing. And that's what attracted me to Zoho at the beginning, right? Is I could customize it for what I wanted. And Pixel does that. And yes, Pixel has saved me so many different subscriptions that I've had to buy over to put all this together and bring it into one. There's still a couple that I'm on the fence. I haven't quite jumped in yet. The phone system, I really like Open Phone, or whatever you call it now. I don't even know how to
Quo,
pronounce
or I think it's Quo.
Quo. I don't know why they changed
Uh,
the name. That's
yeah.
Anyways, Open Phone was so much better. I still have not made the jump to bring all of our phone numbers in. I see the value in it, but I really like the interface of
Hmm.
Open Phone. I'll probably do that eventually, because it does make sense. But yeah,
Whenever
the
I integrate anybody with OpenFone, I always, say, "Hey, I'm gonna tell, we're gonna set you up. You pull your open phone conversations in here, but I'll let you know that a lot of times when we do this, people realize that they don't need to have their open phone. They can do it all in here, and it's better that way. So just know that going in, that we're gonna integrate it, we're gonna set it all up, and then you'll be like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, yeah. And that's what just happened with ManyChat. So I don't know if anybody knows what ManyChat is, but ManyChat is where you've got a post on social media and you're like, comment the word free, and ManyChat will automate the message, or it'll automatically send a link or whatever it is that you want it to do, right?
Hmm.
And I was on one of your Zooms recently, and it just kind of jumped out at me. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I can do this inside of Pixel. I don't need ManyChat to do that.
Yeah.
I can create my own workflows that when this word is said, then this happens. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh. And ManyChat, I mean, ManyChat was costing me, whatever it was like 20, $30 per location, per account. I mean,
Yeah.
it was probably $100 or something that I was able to save figuring it out on my own. And now I can do that inside Pixel. So,
Hmm.
um,
And I think
definitely,
that's the biggest thing too, is that it unlike Zoho, it's all in one spot. And so all of the data is there, everything is there. And so when you connect your Instagram account and you do a post, like you said, you know, we do the same thing. So we'll do comment book and you can we'll send you the link to get your free copy of the book. And that's all run through Pixel. And so when somebody connects their Instagram account or whatever their Facebook account, those are the two main ones, and it will. you comment on the post, it will like and comment back, and then it'll send you a direct message through the integration that'll say, "Hey, here's the link to grab your copy,"
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you can follow up and you can do all sorts of stuff from there.
yeah, yeah. It's so nice to have it all in that one place and not having to bounce around to everything.
You get more done is what I found is that you can actually because you're in it almost every day, you're constantly saying, "Ooh, there's this thing over here," and then you build something that incorporates that, and it just keeps snowballing. Rather than ManyChat, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with it, but you have to be in ManyChat like every day to discover all the things you can do with it to be able to make it do what you want it to do, and you don't have all day to spend in it. Same thing with your email marketing platform. If you spend more time there, you'd probably find that there's other things that it can do. But because it's built differently than ManyChat, it doesn't talk to each other. You're trying to say, well, I set this one thing over here up and this one thing over here and this interesting thing over here. What I found early on, I'm big on systems, obviously, and a lot of the things that I would build out, I'd build it once in a bunch of weird things, and then it worked great for a year, and then it stopped working, and I'd have to figure out what it is I did to build it when I built it with whatever it was I was using, and it's like, how do I even do this? But with everything in one spot, again, it's the same system, it's the same custom values, it's the same contacts, and it just works so much
yeah,
better.
yeah, totally. And with the add-on of AI now too within
Yeah,
within Pixel, um,
that just
you know that
supercharges everything.
yeah, like I recently set up the conversational AI to work within our DMs. And it's so awesome. I mean, we get inundated with editors, Rick, right? Editors asking, hey, give me work, give me work. In the past, I would just ignore them, but now my AI will respond and it'll say, hey, thanks for asking, but we have our own in-house editing option and we're happy with them. And so it's been so fun to just watch the AI responding. And I'm like, oh, good job, and you can give it feedback and you can say, oh yeah, that was a good response, or no, let's change the response next time. And you can click on the little negative button or the little thumbs down and change it and say, next time say this or do that. And I've loved that. That's been so helpful. Um, so yeah, love it, man.
That's awesome. So one of the things that I know that we talked about early on is I guess probably at the point where you kind of gave up on building stuff in Zoho, as you started moving stuff over, is like, I'm not even sure what I have turned on anymore over there. And you're looking to say, huh, I half those things weren't even working anymore. And so you've got a lot of stuff set up in Pixel, and you're constantly moving new things over, you're building new things out. It, all of the things that you wanted to do with Zoho, or you may have even had set up at one point, you're doing now, and then some. What are the comments? What would you say are the really cool things that you're doing now that you can just set it up and it actually works?
Um,
Besides custom fields for the three different companies, because that's the most recent one.
yeah. The ManyChat thing was cool because of the outreach that we're doing, being able to automate the response, so
Mhm.
if we send an offer for a free stock photo pack, being able to automate some of that. But what I really love about it is being able to do the multi-channel, right? So not only can I automate it in the DM, but then I can also like send an SMS if I want or send an email. So being able to connect kind of all of those channels of communication
Mhm.
has been really cool. Um,
We had I think it was one of the Q&As. We were talking about how I think it was when you were headed up to Alaska to do some event stuff.
oh
And,
yeah.
and we walked through how I used to do the events and track it so that we could actually follow up and nurture and whatnot. And you did some pretty quick. let me set that up real quick and see how it works.
Yeah, that's again, that's the beauty of all of this is it's all in one place. So like being able, well, first of all, I moved all my websites out of Squarespace and into Pixel, right?
Hmm.
And that's another savings. I mean, I don't have to pay Squarespace now for websites. I got it all in Pixel. But then the funnels or landing pages, right? So being able to create a landing page for every event that we're going to, with, a QR code, that people can scan while they're at the event. And, then we can follow up with them, add them into nurturing campaigns, you know, being able to say, oh, this is a client. So let's just send a text message and be like, hey, it was good to see you. We had a fun time hanging out, and leave it at that versus a non-client who can go down a different path and we can say, hey, it was good seeing you, and then start nurturing them. By the way, we do this, we do that, like
Hmm.
that's been just awesome to be able to have that in one easy place. Um, Something that we're working on right now is, we're trying to incentivize our team to go do brokerage presentations.
Mm.
I don't want to do any more photos myself, and so I don't want to go do the brokerage presentation because then people want to use me. Oh, the
Yeah.
gray-haired dude, he's been doing this for 15 years. He's probably the better photographer. I don't want that. I want my team members to be the face, right? So being able to create like, so what I'm working on right now is a brokerage presentation, that is basically a funnel, or a landing page, basically, and they're unique to each team member. And so if they scan the QR code that's on that brokerage presentation, then that team member gets credit. It gets tagged and they get some kind of a credit, back to them if somebody uses us. It's kind of like a referral fee, if you will. So just being able to do all of that in one place is just so nice. Not having to like log into multiple different places and have a subscription over here and one over there. And
And then duct tape it all together to see if it maybe works for long enough time
yep,
that you can forget how it worked to start with.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, exactly. So yeah, I mean, if you can imagine it, it's possible. I mean, that's the fun thing, and I've been doing events for 10 plus years, and I never thought about doing the landing page and the QR codes and the follow-ups and all that. I mean, we just went and did the event, delivered the photos, and we were done. We never had like a system in place. I always wanted to have a system in place, but I never did it.
I remember
Um,
you mentioning that it's like you didn't think that there was going to be that many new people, but you surprised at how many new people scan the QR code and you had conversations that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, once you start tracking it and keeping track of it, it's like eye-opening. It's like, whoa. Um, yeah, all of it is like that. Another one that I love looking at is on my dashboard, for example. Um, how many like clients are active, how many clients we're working with versus how many clients we're not working with anymore. And it's kind of depressing to see that number sometimes. Um, but it's cool to know that the system is reaching out to them and following up with them. And I get all these notifications like, oh, so and so hasn't had a shoot in 60 days, and then all of a sudden a text message goes out, and then they respond back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. So as we come to the end of the episode here, what are you know it's the end of the year. The fourth quarter doesn't really exist. Everybody's kind of doing their holiday parties and getting wrapped up in with all of the events there. What are you most excited about for next year?
um just continued growth. I think, now that we've moved into multiple markets, I'm like, okay, I can keep going into more, now that I have a system in place, and now that we have a really easy platform to do outreach, now that I know that it's like, okay, I can pull in all of these clients, I can tag them this way, and I can, outreach that way. I think just more growth, continued growth is what I'm excited about. I like to build things, um, mostly
That has been very,
business,
very clear.
yeah, business and technology and stuff. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about. Um, so
Definitely. Awesome. So if somebody um, asked you about Pixel CRM, and I know people have asked you about Pixel CRM, and you've been very vocal about your support. But what would you say if somebody was listens to this episode and heard about Pixel CRM and they're like, I don't know, should I do it? Should I where do I even start? The platform's massive.
Well, first of all, I would say absolutely. I mean, like I said, I've been pushing. You got to get a CRM for years. I actually remember like going to a PMRE, and my action item on the upmarket podcast was you got to get a CRM. And so I've been totally into CRMs forever. So I would say absolutely, you got to have a CRM. You got to know, what your clients are doing or not doing. How long has it been since they've ordered? You just got to have that information. Um, and I would say, like you said earlier, just follow the book. Just start with, just follow the book, build it out, one step at a time. I created myself a little chart, a little flow chart, so I could like visually see, the path. And, for me, the easiest first step was the old clients. Um, I was like, I need to follow up with past clients. So that was the
Hmm.
first step. Like, because it was easy, it was the low hanging fruit. Like these people already know who we are, they've already used us. Let's reach out and try to get them to come back. And we've gotten quite a few. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we've gotten a lot have to come back. But
It's
for us,
amazing how just a little touch
yeah,
gets people to say, "Oh yeah, you're still here. I should use you
yeah,
again." That's
yeah,
it. That's
totally.
all it takes.
Yeah. And, for us, that number is like, 1.5 thousand names, you know what I mean, of
Yeah.
people that have, used us and haven't come back. And so that was an easy first step. But yeah, I mean, you've made it so easy, so I think that's the thing that I loved about it was the workflows are already in the system. You just have to either, tweak them and modify them a little bit to fit your business, but you don't have to start from scratch. Like it's kind of already there. Um, and and that makes it way easier. But yeah, I'm an open book. If anyone has questions, I'm always willing to help. I try to be active on um
In the group, the
the
community,
the
yeah.
yeah, the Pixel community and share, and I'm willing to share more. If people want to talk more or mastermind together or whatever, I mean, I'm definitely open to all of that. So I appreciate what
Awesome.
you've done, Pete. It's been awesome. Um, it's just been awesome to kind of go full circle on this and for me to be able to utilize what you built.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you jumping on and even pointing me in the direction of Zoho, all those years ago, because that's what got us to this point where we can build out all these systems. Like I've said before, market systems and marketing have been around forever. Just having it applied to our business and applied in a way that we can actually just take it and run with it is huge. And that's what I've been building right along is all the systems and processes that we needed for real estate media. So
I love it. I'm excited to see what's new. I know you're working on projects constantly to update and make it
constantly,
better, and I'm excited for some of those new things to show up in the system. So
yeah, awesome. Well, again, thanks for joining us, and I'll talk to you again later.
sounds good, Pete. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Pixel Marketing Show. If you're ready to go from random acts of marketing to remarkable results, grab your free copy of the Pixel Marketing Method at pixelmarketingmethodbook.com. If this episode helped you, share it with another real estate media business owner. Make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Until next time.